Sunny lost her Hall of Fame spot after killing a man in a DUI crash.
Please know that every single second of every day since the crash, I have wished I could choke.
Velveteen Dream's career ended after disturbing allegations involving minors, and Chris Benoit, WWE erased him completely after the horrifying murder-suicide that shook the entire industry. In this video, we're looking at the wrestlers who crossed the line so badly, WWE blacklisted them permanently. Let's start with Chris Benoit. Perhaps no name in professional wrestling history carries more weight and tragedy than Chris Benoit. Once celebrated as one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time, whose dedication to his craft was legendary, Benoit's legacy was forever tainted by actions so horrific they transcended sports entertainment. In 2007, he murdered his wife and son before taking his own life, a tragedy that stunned the world and forced WWE to erase him from its history. The magnitude of this erasure cannot be overstated. His emotional victory at WrestleMania 20, embracing Eddie Guerrero after winning the World Heavyweight Championship, represented the pinnacle of dedication in professional wrestling. But all of that legacy evaporated in June 2007 when the horrific details of what transpired in his Georgia home emerged. His matches are on the WWE Network with warnings, but he's never mentioned on programming, and his Hall of Fame induction is unthinkable. This wasn't simply avoiding new content. It involved systematic removal from historical records, editing his image from group photos, and careful navigation around his involvement in significant storylines. While Benoit's ban stems from the most heinous of crimes, the next wrestler on our list faced charges that were equally serious. Jimmy Snuka. Jimmy Superfly Snuka's transformation from beloved high-flying pioneer to permanently banned outcast represents one of wrestling's most dramatic reversals of fortune. For generations, Snuka was synonymous with athletic innovation. Snuka's contributions were so significant that WWE inducted him into their Hall of Fame in 1996, cementing his status as an industry pioneer. However, the ghosts of his past were destined to catch up with him. The shadow consuming Snuka's legacy dated back to May 10, 1983, when his girlfriend Nancy Argentino was found unconscious in their Pennsylvania hotel room, dying from traumatic brain injuries. Charged in 2015 with third-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter in the 1983 death of his girlfriend, Nancy Argentino, WWE removed him from the Hall of Fame and distanced itself entirely. The charges came after a grand jury investigation, reinvigorated by new evidence and changing attitudes toward domestic violence cases. Though charges were dropped due to his health, his name remains taboo. Unlike Snuka's case involving decades-old allegations, the next wrestler's ban resulted from more recent accusations that emerged during his active WWE career. Enzo Amore. Eric Arndt, known as Enzo Amore, managed to generate tremendous controversy in a remarkably short time, transforming from rising star to permanently banned individual through a combination of serious allegations and catastrophically poor judgment. Paired with Big Cass, Enzo became a fan favorite through infectious energy and undeniable charisma. His rapid-fire promos delivered with New York swagger making him must-see television. However, Enzo's personality proved to be his downfall. Reports emerged of backstage heat, with fellow wrestlers finding his attitude obnoxious and his behavior unprofessional. Rumors swirled that he was banned from the locker room altogether, forced to change in separate areas after multiple complaints from fellow performers. In 2018, WWE officially cut ties with him following a sexual assault allegation he failed to report to management. Although the investigation was later dropped, his controversial attempt to hijack Survivor Series 2018, combined with his constant criticism of WWE, has all but shut the door on any possible return. While Enzo's ban resulted from poor judgment and breached trust, our next wrestler's permanent exile came from a sustained campaign of personal attacks that crossed every line of professional decorum. Sable. Rena Marlette Lesnar, known professionally as Sable, represents one of WWE's most puzzling permanent bans, involving a combination of legal disputes and mysterious backstage politics that have kept her name virtually forbidden from WWE programming. As one of the company's biggest stars during the Attitude Era, Sable helped revolutionize women's wrestling and became a mainstream celebrity whose popularity transcended traditional wrestling audiences. She left WWE in 1999 and filed a high-profile lawsuit, citing harassment and unsafe working conditions. Although the case was eventually settled and she made a brief return in the mid-2000s, her name has since vanished from WWE's narrative. Some speculate the silence stems from her marriage to Brock Lesnar, whose own complicated contract negotiations may have played a role. Others point to Sable's outspoken stance on WWE's treatment of women, suggesting she ruffled too many feathers behind the scenes. Whatever the reason, Sable's absence remains one of WWE's most deliberate and mysterious erasures. Unlike Sable's mysterious ban involving legal settlements and backstage politics, our next wrestler's permanent exile resulted from a comprehensive campaign of public criticism that burned every possible bridge with WWE management. Ryback. Ryan Allen Reeves, performing as Ryback, has managed to alienate himself from WWE through the most comprehensive and aggressive campaign of public criticism in wrestling history. Originally built as a powerhouse character designed to capitalize on Goldberg's popularity, Ryback was positioned as one of WWE's top stars, receiving significant television time and competing in main events against established stars like CM Punk and John Cena. Behind the scenes, tension built between Ryback and WWE management over creative and financial decisions. When his contract expired in 2016, he chose not to renew, citing dissatisfaction with his direction and compensation. After parting ways with WWE, Ryback launched a wave of public criticism targeting the company, Vince McMahon, Triple H, and even John Cena. But this wasn't just your usual post-departure venting. It quickly turned into a personal and relentless attack campaign. At one point, he even referred to Vince McMahon's mother using a highly offensive term, crossing a line that made any future reconciliation virtually impossible. The tone and intensity of Ryback's comments didn't just burn bridges with WWE leadership, it alienated fellow wrestlers and industry insiders as well. By the time the dust settled, Ryback hadn't just walked away from WWE, he'd torched every path back. While Ryback's ban resulted from his own vitriolic campaign against WWE, the next wrestler's permanent exile stems from accusations and behavioral issues that developed during his time with the company. Austin Aries. Daniel Healy Solwall Jr., known professionally as Austin Aries, represents the type of talented but difficult personality that WWE has increasingly sought to avoid in their modern corporate environment. Long before his WWE run, Aries had already earned a reputation across various independent promotions for being demanding and frequently clashing with management. Still, his undeniable in-ring talent and standout work in TNA wrestling often outweighed concerns about his temperament. When he joined WWE's 205 Live division, Aries quickly emerged as a top-tier performer. But behind the curtain, problems mounted. Reports of disputes with producers, refusal to follow direction, and a generally abrasive demeanor painted the picture of someone increasingly difficult to work with. He was released in 2017, officially due to backstage issues and poor conduct. Since then, accusations of sexual harassment and a series of controversial incidents have further tarnished his reputation, making a WWE return highly unlikely. Unlike Aries, whose downfall was rooted in clashes and misconduct, the next wrestler was banned over legal disputes and a connection to one of wrestling's most controversial figures, Colt Cabana. Scott Colton, better known as Colt Cabana, finds himself permanently excluded from WWE due to a web of legal conflicts and controversial associations that have made him radioactive in the company's eyes. What began as a friendship with CM Punk ultimately evolved into a nightmare that would define the remainder of his career. Cabana's troubles with WWE began when he became collateral damage in CM Punk's explosive exit from the company. When Punk detailed his grievances on Cabana's podcast, particularly regarding WWE's medical staff and treatment of his health issues, it set off a chain reaction of legal proceedings that would engulf both men for years. Sued WWE alongside CM Punk over medical treatment, winning the case. His involvement in the AEW Brawl-Out incident further complicated his standing within the wrestling industry. While legal victory might seem like vindication, it actually served to further alienate Cabana from WWE management. The company has historically been reluctant to work with individuals who have successfully sued them, viewing such victories as dangerous precedents. The situation became even more complicated when Cabana found himself caught in the middle of the infamous Brawl-Out incident in AEW, where backstage conflicts involving CM Punk reportedly turned physical. Building on the theme of legal conflicts destroying careers, our next wrestler's permanent exile dates back to attitude problems that became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Buff Bagwell. Marcus Alexander Bagwell, known as Buff Bagwell, represents one of WWE's earliest and most decisive examples of cutting ties with a performer whose attitude and work ethic were fundamentally incompatible with the company's culture. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of professionalism in an industry that was transitioning from territorial chaos to corporate structure. Bagwell arrived in WWE as part of the historic WCW acquisition, bringing with him the relaxed attitude and questionable work ethic that had characterized WCW's declining years. His approach to the wrestling business, which prioritized personal comfort over professional responsibility, immediately clashed with WWE's more demanding corporate culture. Released in 2001 after a poor attitude and a bad match with Booker T, Jim Ross claimed Bagwell's mother called in sick for him, cementing his blacklisting as his YCW-style persona never meshed with WWE. The infamous incident where Jim Ross claimed Bagwell's mother called in sick for him became legendary within wrestling circles as an example of unprofessional behavior that WWE would not tolerate. Also, his poor match with Booker T on Raw, widely criticized by fans and industry observers, provided WWE with the justification they needed to release him quickly and permanently. From Bagwell's attitude-related ban stemming from cultural incompatibility, we moved to a creative mastermind whose departure and subsequent criticism created an irreparable rift with WWE management. Vince Russo. Vincent James Russo's transformation from WWE's head writer during the Attitude Era to permanently banned critic represents one of wrestling's most complex and bitter professional divorces. His story demonstrates how even the most successful creative partnerships can collapse into mutual animosity and permanent estrangement. Russo's contributions to WWE during the late 1990s cannot be understated. He was instrumental in creating the edgy, controversial content that defined the Attitude Era and helped WWE defeat WCW in the Monday Night Wars. Characters, storylines, and angles that Russo developed became legendary parts of wrestling history and generated tremendous revenue for WWE. However, his departure to WW in 1999 was perceived as a betrayal by WWE management, particularly given the heated competition between the companies at the time. Left WWE for WCW, later criticized WWE's creative direction. His controversial tenure in WCW and lawsuits against WWE made him a permanent outcast, despite his Attitude Era contributions. Russo's subsequent booking decisions in WCW, which many observers blamed for accelerating that company's decline, further damaged his reputation within the industry. His controversial creative philosophy, involving frequent heel and face turns, convoluted storylines, and breaking the fourth wall, became synonymous with everything wrong with wrestling's direction during the early 2000s. While Russo's ban involves creative differences and business betrayal, the next wrestler's permanent exile resulted from a physical altercation that became wrestling legend. Nailz. Kevin Michael Wuertz, who performed as the character Nailz, holds the distinction of being involved in one of the most shocking backstage incidents in WWE history, an event so unprecedented that it led to a permanent ban lasting over 3 decades. His case represents the ultimate line that cannot be crossed in professional wrestling. The Nailz character was masterfully positioned as a dangerous ex-convict seeking revenge against Big Boss Man, creating compelling television during WWE's early 1990s period. The character's intimidating presence and legitimate menace made him an effective antagonist, while his unique backstory provided natural storytelling opportunities that WWE was successfully exploiting. However, behind the scenes, tensions were building between Wuertz and WWE management over various issues, culminating in a payment dispute that would end his career in the most dramatic fashion possible. Allegedly assaulted Vince McMahon backstage over a payment dispute in 1992, leading to his firing, his subsequent lawsuits and public criticism of Vince and Triple H ensure he's unwelcome. The alleged physical assault on Vince McMahon represents one of the most serious breaches of professional conduct in wrestling history. Physical violence against company executives, particularly the owner, crosses lines that no entertainment business can tolerate, regardless of the circumstances that led to the conflict. From Nailz's violent confrontation with ownership, we transition to a beloved figure whose post-wrestling troubles created irreparable damage to her legacy. Sunny. Tamara Lynn Sitch, known professionally as Sunny, represents the tragic decline of one of wrestling's most beloved personalities from the 1990s. Her transformation from wrestling's golden girl to permanently banned individual illustrates how post-career choices can completely overshadow professional accomplishments. During her peak years in WWE, Sunny was arguably the most popular female personality in professional wrestling, serving as manager and host while becoming one of the most downloaded personalities on the early internet. Her combination of beauty, charisma, and genuine wrestling knowledge made her a perfect ambassador for the company during a crucial period of growth. However, Sunny's post-wrestling career has been marked by a series of increasingly serious legal problems that have made her toxic from a public relations perspective. Post-WWE, she entered the adult film industry and faced multiple legal issues, including prison time. Her Hall of Fame status hasn't saved her from being distanced by WWE due to reputational damage. Her decision to enter the adult film industry, while legal, created association problems for WWE's family-friendly corporate image. More significantly, her multiple arrests for various charges, including the tragic vehicular homicide that resulted in prison time, have made any association with her professionally impossible for WWE. The company systematically distanced themselves from any current association with her. While Sunny's ban resulted from post-career legal troubles, the next wrestler's permanent exile stems from serious allegations that emerged during the height of his developmental success. Velveteen Dream. Patrick Clark Jr., who performed as Velveteen Dream, represents one of the most promising careers in modern WWE history that was completely destroyed by serious allegations that made his continued employment impossible. His story serves as a stark reminder of how quickly a wrestling career can be obliterated by personal conduct issues. Velveteen Dream's character was revolutionary in its scope and execution, a flamboyant, Prince-inspired persona that combined 1980s pop culture with modern wrestling sensibilities. His elaborate entrance presentations, theatrical elements, and genuine charisma made him must-see television on WWE's NXT brand, while his legitimate wrestling ability demonstrated that his appeal extended far beyond just entertainment value. WWE's investment in Dream was substantial, providing him with significant creative resources and positioning him as one of NXT's top attractions and future main event stars. Industry observers widely considered him a future world champion with the potential to become one of WWE's biggest stars across all brands. Released in 2021 after accusations of sending explicit photos to minors and grooming, despite WWE initially finding no evidence, the allegations and public backlash make his return impossible. The persistence of allegations, combined with mounting public pressure and the serious nature of claims involving minors, made Dream's position untenable. WWE's initial internal investigation may not have found conclusive evidence, but the public relations nightmare and potential legal liability made continuing his employment impossible. From Dream's ban involving allegations of inappropriate conduct with minors, we move to a WWE employee whose controversial public statements led to his immediate dismissal, Drake Wuertz. Drake Wuertz, who served as an NXT referee, represents WWE's evolution toward requiring all employees to maintain professional standards that align with corporate values. His dismissal demonstrates that even behind-the-scenes personnel are expected to represent the company appropriately in public forums. Wuertz's controversial public statements, including anti-mask positions and vaccine criticism during the COVID-19 pandemic, created significant problems for WWE's corporate image and relationships with health authorities and broadcast partners. His willingness to express controversial views publicly, despite being a WWE employee, demonstrated poor judgment regarding corporate responsibilities. Fired in 2021 as an NXT referee after controversial public statements and backstage conflicts, including storming out of a meeting, his nuclear heat backstage sealed his ban. The backstage conflicts, including reports of him storming out of meetings and creating disruption among other employees, showed his inability to function professionally within WWE's corporate environment. WWE's decision to release Wuertz reflects their evolution toward requiring all employees, regardless of their on-screen prominence, to maintain professional standards and avoid public statements that could damage the company's reputation. In modern corporate entertainment, even referees are considered company representatives whose behavior reflects on the organization. While Wuertz's ban resulted from controversial statements and unprofessional behavior, the next wrestler's permanent exile stems from serious allegations that emerged during wrestling's reckoning with misconduct. Travis Banks. Travis Banks became one of the most prominent casualties of professional wrestling's speaking out movement, facing allegations serious enough to immediately end his promising WWE relationship. His case illustrates how the wrestling industry's cultural reckoning fundamentally changed the consequences for alleged misconduct. Banks was positioned as one of NXT UK's featured performers, representing WWE's ambitious expansion into the European wrestling market. His technical wrestling ability and compelling character work made him a valuable asset to the developing NXT UK brand, with clear potential for main roster opportunities in the future. Accused of emotional abuse by former student Millie McKenzie during the 2020 Speaking Out movement, WWE severed ties with the NXT UK star, and the allegations make a return unlikely. The Speaking Out movement created an environment where victims felt empowered to come forward with allegations against prominent wrestling personalities, leading to significant industry-wide consequences. The accusations of emotional abuse by Millie McKenzie, a former wrestling student, were particularly damaging given the power dynamic involved in the training relationship. Banks' immediate removal from WWE programming and complete severing of ties demonstrates the company's zero-tolerance approach to such allegations in the modern era, regardless of the performer's value or potential. From Banks' ban resulting from abuse allegations in a training context, we move to a performer whose alleged inappropriate conduct with a minor led to immediate dismissal: James Ellsworth. James Morris, known as James Ellsworth, transformed from beloved underdog meme to permanently banned individual through allegations so serious they immediately ended one of wrestling's most unlikely success stories. His case demonstrates how quickly beloved characters can become radioactive when serious misconduct allegations emerge. Ellsworth's rise to prominence was unprecedented in its organic nature. Originally brought in as enhancement talent for squash matches, his unique appearance and unexpected charisma during encounters with Braun Strowman created an authentic fan connection that WWE hadn't anticipated. His everyman appearance and underdog persona resonated with audiences who saw themselves reflected in his unlikely success. WWE capitalized on Ellsworth's popularity by featuring him prominently in storylines with major stars like AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose. His catchphrases and memorable moments made him a legitimate part of WWE programming rather than just a novelty act, representing the type of organic star development that wrestling companies dream of achieving. Banned after allegedly sending inappropriate photos to a minor, the serious nature of the accusation led WWE to cut all ties with no chance of a return. The allegations involving inappropriate conduct with underage individuals represent exactly the type of conduct that no entertainment company can afford to be associated with, regardless of the performer's popularity or value. While Ellsworth's ban involved allegations of inappropriate conduct with a minor, the next wrestler's permanent exile resulted from reports of abuse toward fellow performers: Tessa Blanchard. Tessa Blanchard represents WWE's proactive approach to avoiding problematic talent, with reports of her abusive behavior toward other wrestlers leading to the company's decision to avoid signing her despite her obvious talent and prestigious industry connections. Her case illustrates how reputation can override ability in modern wrestling. Blanchard's wrestling credentials are impeccable. The daughter of wrestling legend Tully Blanchard, she possessed natural athletic ability and had achieved significant success in various wrestling promotions. Her appearance in WWE's Mae Young Classic tournament suggested potential company interest in signing her to a full-time contract. Reports of verbally and physically abusing other female wrestlers, combined with a poor reputation, led WWE to avoid signing her despite her Mae Young Classic appearance. However, reports of her behavior toward other female wrestlers, including allegations of both verbal and physical abuse, created significant red flags that influenced WWE's decision-making process. The wrestling industry has historically tolerated difficult personalities when their talent justified the complications they created. However, WWE's modern corporate environment prioritizes maintaining positive workplace culture and avoiding potential liability issues that could arise from employing individuals with histories of abusive behavior. From Blanchard's preemptive ban based on reputation, we transition to a performer whose dramatic protest resignation created a permanent rift with management: Gail Kim. Gail Kim's permanent exile from WWE resulted from one of the most dramatic and public protest resignations in wrestling history, combined with her subsequent success elsewhere that made reconciliation politically impossible. Her case represents the ultimate example of burning bridges through public defiance. Kim's protest resignation was unprecedented in its public nature and symbolic impact, quit WWE in 2011 by eliminating herself from a battle royal in protest of the women's division's treatment. Her public criticism and success in TNA make a return unlikely. By eliminating herself from a battle royal on live television, she made a powerful statement about WWE's treatment of women wrestlers that resonated throughout the industry. Her subsequent success in TNA wrestling, where she became one of the company's top stars and helped establish their women's division as superior to WWE's, created additional tensions with her former employer. Kim's public statements criticizing WWE's approach to women's wrestling, combined with her obvious success elsewhere, made her return politically impossible. The timing of Kim's protest, occurring years before WWE's women's revolution, makes her actions appear prescient in hindsight. However, her public defiance and continued criticism have ensured that any potential reconciliation remains impossible, despite changes in WWE's approach to women's wrestling. While Kim's ban resulted from public protest against company policies, the next wrestler's permanent exile stems from legal conflicts that created lasting animosity. Raven. Scott Anthony Levy, known professionally as Raven, finds himself permanently blacklisted from WWE due to his participation in legal action against the company, demonstrating how litigation can create irreparable damage to professional relationships, even when the underlying issues may be legitimate. Raven's creative contributions to wrestling cannot be understated. His psychological approach to character development and storytelling influenced an entire generation of wrestlers and creative minds. His work in ECW and WCW has showcased innovative approaches to character psychology that push the boundaries of traditional wrestling entertainment. Sued WWE, which is a major strike against non-draw performers. Despite respect from peers like Steve Austin, his lack of mainstream appeal keeps him blacklisted. Raven's lawsuit against WWE was part of broader legal action involving former wrestlers seeking better working conditions and benefits. While the legal action may have been justified from the wrestler's perspective, it created an adversarial relationship with WWE management that has persisted long after the litigation concluded. Despite earning respect from industry legends like Steve Austin, who have praised Raven's creativity and wrestling psychology, his lack of mainstream name recognition makes him a poor candidate for reconciliation. WWE's historical reluctance to work with performers who have sued the company, combined with Raven's limited commercial drawing power, creates a situation where reconciliation offers little benefit to offset past conflicts. From Raven's ban involving legal conflicts, we move to a performer whose defiance of safety protocols led to immediate dismissal. Juventud Guerrera. Eduardo Anibal Gonzalez, known as Juventud Guerrera, represents WWE's absolute intolerance for talent who defy direct orders regarding safety protocols, particularly when such defiance results in injury to fellow performers. His case demonstrates that no level of talent can excuse insubordination that endangers others. Guerrera came to WWE with a reputation as one of Lucha Libre's most exciting high-flying performers, bringing athleticism and innovation that helped establish the cruiserweight division's credibility. His 450 splash was one of wrestling's most spectacular finishing maneuvers, generating strong crowd reactions and showcasing the athletic artistry that made cruiserweight wrestling compelling. Fired after defying orders to avoid the banned 450 splash, which injured Paul London, his lack of standout success post-WWE reduces any incentive to bring him back. However, WWE's decision to ban the 450 splash was based on legitimate safety concerns, as the move's execution required precise timing and positioning that created significant injury risk for both performer and opponent. When Guerrera defied direct orders to avoid using the banned maneuver, resulting in injury to Paul London, he demonstrated exactly the type of insubordination that WWE cannot tolerate. The injury to London, caused by Guerrera's willful defiance of company safety protocols, created liability issues that reinforced WWE's decision to immediately terminate his employment. Finally, we conclude with perhaps the most tragic case on this list, a performer whose character became impossible to continue due to circumstances beyond his control: Muhammad Hassan. Mark Julian Capani, who performed as Muhammad Hassan, represents perhaps the most tragic case on this list, a performer whose promising career was destroyed not by personal misconduct, but by unfortunate timing and cultural circumstances that made his character impossible to continue. His case demonstrates how external events can make even successful characters radioactive overnight. Hassan's character was originally intended to address post-9/11 prejudice against Arab Americans, with the performer initially positioned as a sympathetic figure highlighting discrimination faced by Muslim Americans. The character's early development showed genuine potential to address important social issues while providing compelling wrestling entertainment. However, the character's evolution toward more villainous territory, combined with WWE's tendency toward cultural stereotyping, transformed Hassan into exactly the type of offensive caricature he was originally meant to criticize. As creative direction shifted, Hassan became less of a commentary on prejudice and more of a stereotypical foreign heel that reinforced rather than challenged cultural biases. Released in 2005 after UPN pressured WWE to drop his controversial terrorist gimmick following a UK terrorist attack, the character's cultural insensitivity and WWE's PG shift make a revival impossible. The timing of Hassan's final storyline proved catastrophic. A segment featuring masked men attacking The Undertaker aired shortly after terrorist attacks in London, creating the appearance that WWE was exploiting real-world tragedy for entertainment purposes. UPN's pressure to remove the character from their programming forced WWE to immediately end Hassan's television appearances, effectively killing the character overnight. The network's concerns about advertiser reactions and public backlash made continuing the character impossible, regardless of any creative merits or the performer's personal qualities. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.